This is Cadillac Unscripted on 107.9 CDY. It's another Saturday morning of local chat sponsored by Independent Bank. My co-host is Katie Huckle. And Katie, our guest today is someone who very recently had a schedule change.
Oh, that's a good way to put it. You know, we should sing.
To get up for work anymore.
That's right. She's the jolly good fellow. Yes, we have Mayor Carla Filkins in the studio with us this morning, and she has retired after 43 years in administration from our local hospital. She retired from Munson. Congratulations, boss.
Thank you, Katie.
How does it feel?
Well, it's been a really busy week. My first week away from the office has just been really busy, so I'm not sure that it's sunk in yet. But
okay, so really busy doing what?
Well, we had some celebrations, of course, at the end of last week and then over the weekend. And then, this week, the 4th of July.
Oh, yeah.
The parade in downtown Cadillac was absolutely fabulous.
Great.
And it was hot.
Uh-oh.
But that didn't stop people from coming out. It was a lot of fun.
Good.
A lot of
fun.
Like
Americana.
Yes.
I think before we go any further with this, we need to give a huge round of applause and a huge thanks to the folks who were in charge of the Freedom Festival.
Absolutely.
We didn't have one last year, and there were a lot of people in the community who were like, how can this happen? It's the 4th of July and nothing's happening in Cadillac. So there were a group of people who stepped up and said, no, this is not going to happen in 2023. We're going to put something together. So thank you for all your efforts. Anyone who was on that committee, John Dykstra, Ann Bush, Beth Miller, and the others.
So many others. They did such a fantastic job. And so many new volunteers came out to help make this happen, and they've been enjoying their time together. You can tell just, even at the parade on Tuesday, just watching them work together, they were really excited to make this all happen.
It's so much work, and it takes hours out of your schedule. And, all these folks are still working. We've got people that have big jobs on the committee.
They all have regular jobs that don't end.
And families. And so thank you so much for rolling up your sleeves, because that kind of stuff matters. And what's the song? You don't know what you got till it's gone. Mm-hmm. And when it was gone, we all looked around and said, well, who dropped the ball? Well, so these guys picked up the ball. I know some of them do have a history with the festival already, but just hats off, and thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know we've got a lot of things left to go today and the final day.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Culminating with the fireworks tonight, and I'll put in a little promo here, 107.9 CDY, with support from the Cadillac Freedom Festival Committee. We'll have the musical soundtrack that is actually synchronized second by second with the fireworks. Mm-hmm. So we're really looking forward to that.
That's exciting. And is that a first?
I did it 11 years ago when I was working at the other radio station.
Okay.
But it wasn't synchronized. They just told me how long they needed it to be.
Okay.
And so it wasn't specifically synchronized, but time-wise, it worked out beautifully. It just ended. God Bless the USA from Lee Greenwood played. The last note happened just as the last fireworks were shot off. Ooh. But this is the first time since 2012 in Cadillac this has been done.
Awesome.
With a radio station working together. So
well, I got a little teaser.
I'm glad we were asked to do it, and I was happy to do it.
Oh my gosh, I heard a little teaser, and I told Rich, I'm like, save that audio because it is pretty powerful.
I played that for you last week.
That's right.
I've made a couple of updates. I'll have to give you the new one.
Oh, it's exciting. Yeah. Okay. Well, I want to talk about retirement. I want to talk about 43 years. I mean, you don't hear about that anymore, Carla. People don't stay. So what's the secret of your journey in your career?
Well, I'll tell you that I started at the hospital in March of 1980.
Wow.
And I didn't have a college degree. I had 1 year of college under my belt, but I was hired into the materials management department, and I stayed in supply chain or materials management my entire career.
Incredible.
And I think the secret to it, I always say to folks that I'm a lifelong learner. Every day I go to work or whenever I'm involved in anything, I want to learn something new. I want to learn something about a process. I want to learn something about an organization. I want to learn something about something every day. And it was true with supply chain. And I got to work in every aspect of supply chain over the years. And till the day I turned in my keys a week ago Friday, I love my job.
I'm a witness to that because I can remember her having to, especially during COVID, outrageous hours and always a smile on your face, always a positive attitude. Same way you run the city of Cadillac. Same way, with that positive attitude. And where did that come from?
Well, I think that it came from my family. I mean, growing up, my father passed away when I was 12 years old, and I was the second oldest of 5 children. And we had such a loving family. We have a large family, but there was a lot of joy growing up with so many cousins and my aunts and uncles, and great work ethic. Yeah.
I remember you giving a shout out to your mom one time in like a public setting and just saying thank you for making us the people that we are today. That work ethic, it's hard to pass on generationally. And I think people watch you and say, how did she get so far in so many facets of your life? And we get back to lifelong learning. You decided to run for mayor. How old were you if you don't mind me asking, how old were you when you decided to run for mayor?
I was 52 years old.
Hey, Rich, I got an idea for you, buddy.
You and me, both 52 right now, right?
We are. I'm like,
I wasn't supposed to say that. Sorry, Katie.
Well, you know what I'm thinking? No way. But again, lifelong learning. Same with the quilting. When did the quilt? She's an incredible quilter, Rich. When did the quilting start?
Probably 20 years ago.
Okay. Well, what's next?
Golfing, quilting, reading, family, friends, and community.
What made you decide that the end of June of 2023 was your stopping point for
it was rather sudden, I have to tell you,
Okay.
because it really wasn't it's all on all of our horizons, but it wasn't something that I was, prepared to do in the next several years. But I was having a conversation with Caitlin at the chamber about some things that were going on, and a seed was kind of planted. I really love what I do, but I have the opportunity. I could leave this job that I still love, leave it on a great note with people and the staff and everything about it I loved, and just do something else that I love. And so, within a week, Mike and I just talked it over, went to our financial advisor, and it was like, you can do this today, Carla. And so when I went back and had a conversation with my boss, and he said to me, well, when are you thinking? And I said, actually, I think sooner than later.
Oh, boy.
And I said, because I'd really like to enjoy the summer. I didn't want to retire in the middle of winter, although there's a lot of things going on here in the winter that could occupy my time. But I was really excited about being out in the community and with family during the summer. So,
and in your garden, in your
and
patio.
In my garden, patio, yes. Yeah, all of the things.
When did that conversation first start? Was it like a month or just a few weeks?
By the time I finished the conversation, I was able to give a 30-day notice at the hospital, and they accepted that.
Okay.
I was planning to stay 3 to 6 months, whatever they needed me to do. But, 30 days I could do. And so that's how quickly it happened.
So on Memorial Day, this wasn't even on your radar?
It was not.
Wow.
That is incredible. But don't you think if you run a long race and you run it well, that when you're done, you're like, I'm ready to be done?
Right. I always said to people, Mike retired 3 years ago, and he's doing well in retirement. That first year was tough with COVID and being isolated from what he was used to doing, right, with his schedule. But he's doing so well in retirement, so he's got 3 years under his belt. But once he retired, people were asking me, when are you going to retire, Carla? Well, I said, he's a lot older than I am, so... So that was my
He's
stand.
Not here to defend himself against that.
I hope he hears this.
I'm sure he will.
Perfect.
Are you listening, Mike? Yeah. So anyway, that's what I would say. And I just said, I'm not really ready to retire yet, but I think I'll know when I'm ready. And it was just wonderful the way that it all happened.
Incredible.
So for people who aren't familiar with how the supply chain career works, give us a little background on how it works, at least from your perspective.
Okay, well, my career in supply chain was over 43 years. So I'm going to sound really old when I say some of the things that I'm going to say. But when I first started at the hospital, I hired in as an inventory control clerk. And so for every single item, medical disposable items, Band-Aids, whatever, needles, for every single thing that we had, there was a Cardex card that I tracked the on-hand usage of manually. We didn't have computers. And so that was my job, was to keep track of what went in and out of the warehouse. And then when we got down to a certain par level, I would force an order to the vendor. And we used to have, 2 rooms at the hospital filled with inventory. We had what we called bulk stores where everything was in cases, and then we had central supply where everything was broken down to eaches. And at that time, they had SPD technicians, and people would call downstairs and say what they needed, and they would run it upstairs, or they would put it in the pneumatic tube, and they would send it up to the pharmacy or wherever. And so it evolved from there. And, then I became, a purchasing assistant, and then a buyer. And then, somewhere along in there, I did make the decision to go back to school. I went back and I got my associate's degree, then rolled right into my bachelor's degree, and then right into my master's degree. And I could only do that with 4 children, with the most amazing husband. He was so supportive because I was working full time. We were raising our family. He was busy as a band director, but we did it. We did it because my interest in learning every aspect of the supply chain was that I knew one day I would want to go into the management aspect of supply chain.
What changed most over the years? I'm gonna guess technology probably is at the top of that list.
That is a really good guess.
The pneumatic tube is no more.
Yeah.
Tell us.
We're not working off paper anymore.
No, yeah, she's not doing it manually.
We've gone through, and I was there. I remember the first implementation of our first computer system. People, they sent a team up from, Mercy down in Farmington Hills, and, they had a consulting group that came in, and I can remember those days and the stress of that, learning all of that.
Oh, boy.
But technology is definitely what changed the most, and it still continues. I mean, we're I'll get used to not saying that, but
it's going to take a minute.
They are they're working on another major upgrade with supply chain and Cerner and the surgical aspect of our business, all working together on one platform. So technology definitely has made the difference.
So I'm paraphrasing, and I can't remember if it was your role as mayor or your role in dealing with vendors. But I remember a conversation, do you know what I'm talking about? I remember a conversation where it was, Carla put her foot down. But you can do that in such a nice way with a smile on your face. Can you explain that, ruling with a velvet glove, or, that kind of thing? There's a way to work with people and explain to them that based on the facts, the decision that's being made is this, and everybody leaves the room maybe not feeling like they won, but feeling like things are okay. And can you tell us how you do that with vendors, with your leadership at the city level? How does that
Sure. Well, let me first talk about, I remember when I was a buyer for the hospital, and there was really a transition away from buying locally or doing business locally and doing it from a corporate perspective with national buying contracts.
Okay.
And so that was really delicate. And so, I had to say to local business owners that, moving forward, this is a requirement that's been put upon us. And it's not certainly that because, it wasn't because we didn't want to support local. It just had to look different. And so navigating and learning, I learned along the way. But yes, there were some interesting conversations, but really just knowing it's not personal. It's not personal, and you want everyone to feel like they're okay. And not only feel like they're okay, but no, it's going to be okay. And this is how we're going to work together, or this is how we need to work together moving forward. So how do we best do that?
And I think you're an excellent listener.
I do try to. I'm really very conscious of it. And, a part of it is just what we learn every day in relationships that we have, or in business courses that I took, or people who I reported to, or mentors that I had. It's just important to listen, because that's how we learn.
There you go.
Listening to learn. So now we are approximately a week into your retirement. What's the biggest change in your life, aside from not having to wake up at a certain time every day?
You stole my thunder. No alarm clock.
All right.
Although my husband gets up every morning for his 9 o'clock coffee clutch down at the Willow.
I love it.
So he's kind of an alarm clock, but
I think
but
you
really,
should show up at the coffee clutch.
Oh,
I'd
wouldn't
get
that
him
be
fired
fun?
up. Do it.
Oh yeah, at least once a week.
Oh yeah.
I think men are more creatures of habit than women are.
Is that right?
I kind of do. I'll tell you this. I used to work with a guy who took his bathroom break every day at 5:30. He played the same song. In fact,
Come on.
It was a 6-minute song. And
come on. Really?
Seriously.
Oh, boy.
This is back in the days before computers controlled everything and you had to start everything manually. Yeah, and I think, Mike likes that 9 o'clock arrangement every day.
Well, we had John Horrigan on the show a few weeks ago to talk about our beautiful stadium and the work that he and Bob Kellogg are doing. And I said, what does Rose say about this huge commitment that you signed on for? And I said, you wake up in the morning and now you're not exactly retired anymore because you're running. And he goes, yeah, well, after my cigar. And I went, what?
In the morning?
John has a cigar in the morning. So, yeah, right. He's going back to creatures of habit. You talk about, I know how close you are to the grandchildren. Will you get to have more time with those kids?
Absolutely.
What's the plan?
Absolutely. Well, we have 10 grandchildren, ranging from 21 years old down to Oliver will be 2 on the 2nd of August. So, and Oliver and Peyton are the 2 little ones that live here in town with us. And so I didn't have the opportunity with any of the rest of them, but I can go to school and I can, and
read books to the class and,
just things help Michael and Kristen getting them where they need to be or whatever. I'm going to be there to do that. And, take them to the library for, the reading circles and whatnot that they do. Just whatever I can do. I'm looking forward to that.
And I'm sure Michael and Kristen really appreciate
They
that,
do.
too.
They're very appreciative. Yes.
We've raised 4 kids in this town without any family.
Oh, boy.
All of our family lives elsewhere.
Oh,
so,
boy.
It is tremendously helpful. And I think sometimes that's taken for granted. The help that grandfathers and grandmothers give. So,
running kids, sick kids, birthday parties,
and
graduation open houses.
I'm really grateful to be able to do that now. With the kids get sick, they can come over and so and they are very gracious and they really appreciate it when we can do that. So.
She has converted her dining room, which by the way is a fabulous place, into a toy room.
Okay.
So if you want to play, I looked in there one time and I was like, I distinctly remember having a 7-course meal in here. And now there's like little cars and wagons and toys. But that's what it's all about.
It's so short-lived.
Right.
It's just a
This is
short
true.
window. And so if I can do that in that short window, I want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So.
I think you're inspiring so many people because you're finishing your job on a high. On a career high, and you're positive and you still love what you did, but you have more energy than us two put together this morning. And I think, what's she going to do next? And it wasn't like, well, that's a wrap. It's onward to the next new chapter.
New chapter.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so when you talk about, yes, the mayor, that's a lot, and grandma, that's a lot. Will you and Mike travel? Is there? You mentioned golf. Can you tell us what's on the bucket list of, okay, here's what we're doing next?
Well, we don't have any big plans to travel.
Okay.
We will do some traveling. And, like this week, on a week ago Saturday, we heard that, Mike's mom is moving into assisted living. And so, we're at the point that we can just get in the car and go to be out in the Washington, D.C. area to help her out. And so having that freedom to visit, my son who is in the Marine Corps down in Virginia, just having that freedom to say, yeah, let's take off for a week. That'll be nice. But truly, I just have to say that I'm looking forward to just not having, 8 to 10 hours every day be filled with my daytime job.
Right.
And I can spend more time out in the community and, can learn more about what's out there. And, in the first year, I think, I'm a Rotarian and I'm on the board there and I'm on the board of trustees for the Michigan Municipal League. So I've got some commitments that I'm going to continue with. But in this next year, I just want to spend time in the community, getting to know different organizations a little bit more and see moving forward, where we can help. Or where we can make the biggest difference, I guess.
Your days are you're going to have, and I hear people that retire say, I don't know how I ever worked.
Yes.
So your days somehow fill up, but you're not on such a tight timeline where you're running all the time.
Yes.
You were running from meeting to meeting.
Right. Right. Well, and I will have to say too, COVID changed that aspect of my work. Because we all went on to Zoom and to Teams, and we didn't run physically from meeting to meeting, but we sat a lot in meetings looking at a computer screen.
Oh, boy.
And so for me, I'm excited about retirement and being active again. I had the South region for months, and so I had Paul Oliver, Manistee, and Cadillac Hospital. So when I wasn't sitting at my computer, I was sitting in my car.
Getting to one of those three.
Okay. Yeah. So then there again, technology, affected. That was a change in, we were still able to do business during COVID. What a wonderful thing that was. But now that that's over, hopefully people get back to being together. Yeah.
Yes.
I think that's important.
Did you prefer the face-to-face meetings to the to the screens?
I do prefer the face-to-face.
I'm not surprised to hear you say that.
Yeah.
All of us who are people missed that aspect of it. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I have a girlfriend who's an investment banker, and she has a second home in Marco Island. And when she goes on a Zoom call, because she's high up, she's wearing, from Minnesota, she's wearing a scarf and like a big puffy coat because she doesn't want everybody to know she's at her place in Marco Island because they're all freezing in Minnesota. And I'm like, and then she'll whip it all off and she'll have her suit on, she's getting ready to go out on the beach. The things that we've been able to do. Yeah. But, we had Waylon on the show multiple times and talked to him about, the mental health crisis that we're in and asked him, what do we need to be doing? And he said, practice gratitude. But he also said, one-on-one connections with people, not social media, but interacting, picking up the phone or face-to-face or doing something with somebody, even if it's going for a walk, whatever. Those are things that we didn't realize how badly we needed until we couldn't do them anymore.
Exactly. I can't tell you how many times over the last couple of weeks I've had conversations with people, and it's like, we can be walking buddies because now, even, you think about Caitlin with the chamber. We don't have to sit in an office to have a meeting. We can go walk down by the lake.
Oh,
and so
excellent.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, we're not, she's not done.
No.
She's just getting started.
What will you miss the most about your job?
Well, all of the systems that we work with, the supply chain systems, and just having so much information at our fingertips was truly amazing. And I always loved working in analytics and working through and just, digging in. One of my biggest projects that I'm most proud of is that I actually was the administrator for the reprocessing program for the entire Munson system. And so what that means is there are certain items that original OEM original manufacturers of disposable items, they'll make those items, but certain things can be reprocessed by a company that was out in Oregon. But they bring them back to newer, better than newer standards. FDA approved. And so over the years, we've saved millions of dollars. And so that was always so interesting to me to learn about that process and, understand all the manufacturing and the guidelines that went behind that we could actually send those items out and bring them back in at a reduced cost.
It's like glorified recycling. I mean, think of the garbage,
Yes.
the waste that didn't
Yes.
happen.
And over the years, we worked on that aspect of reprocessing, but then also recycling all that blue wrap that things for the surgery department came in. We didn't put that in the landfill anymore, and we would send that out to just be recycled.
Wow, I'm learning now.
Yes.
I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah. So I'm going to miss those. The whole computer, all those things we used to do manually being in one place and you could just dig in. And so I'm really going to miss that. And then, my staff, being responsible, mentoring and growing people in those roles. I'm going to miss them. But as I told them, I'm not going to be here during the day anymore, but I'm still here. And so I still want to be in touch with you. And,
Boy, I bet that meant a lot because I'm sure it was hard for them to say goodbye. And you're
It
like,
was.
this isn't goodbye.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
If there's someone out there that's wondering if they can juggle a big career and a family and take on a community leadership role, what would you tell that person?
Well, I would say to them, it's possible because we've done it, and I still want to mentor and support in any way I can. So please reach out, and if it's that or anything else to do with career or family or community, I'm going to be here. So, was
your role, this administrative role, it helped you, I believe, in taking on the mayorship?
It did. And I went through the chamber leadership program. And then it was just a few years after that, things seemed unsettled. And I had never been in politics before. And so it was something, again, learning something new, but it's like I wanted to understand. And so going through that leadership program and then also my business courses, marketing major, that's what my MBA is in, but really just putting all those things together and the confidence that I had in growing through the hospital, all of it together combined, it gave me confidence to do it. So
you'd say, give me a call and I'll give you some good advice and get you on the road if someone wanted to go for
however I can help, or, just to listen. I'm happy to sit down with a cup of coffee or a pop and talk about whatever you need to.
Okay.
What's at the top of your list of things to do in the next 5 years?
In the next 5 years, well, there's things with the city that I want to see through. We're in a housing crisis right now, and we've been working on some really wonderful things. There's so many groups out there trying to make a difference, and now we've got a group, including somebody from all those groups, and we want to get everybody paddling in the same direction, because I believe that if we're going to make progress, we're going to do it together. We're not going to do it out here in 16 different groups.
People's operating independently.
Right. Yes.
Collaboration.
Yes. And, every time you get a chance to sit in those meetings, I get excited because, we've got to start somewhere. And, if there's 12 new houses, it's a start. But, we need 2,200. So it can be overwhelming, but I think collectively that's something I'm really excited about.
Oh, boy, that's huge.
And that is a huge undertaking, and it is hugely important for Cadillac's economy, for people, for professionals to be able to come to town and find a good place to live.
Yes.
Yeah.
A good place that's affordable and it's safe, and, creating smaller communities within the communities within the community is going to be really important. And, different cities in the state of Michigan have done it. And so I've been out there listening and learning what they've done. How did they do it up on Mackinac Island? How did they do it in, over in Frankfurt? And it's really amazing, the things that are out there and available. But again, we all have to be on the same platform to make it happen. So I'm excited about that.
All right. Very good.
Carla Filkins, everybody. She retired from Munson after 43 years, ending a career high. And like I said, it feels like she's just getting started. Still serving as the wonderful mayor of our beautiful city of Cadillac. Thank you, Carla, for your energy. Every time I'm around her, I think, what am I supposed to be doing? So thank you so much for everything that you've done for the city and everything that you continue to do.
Well, the both of you too. I always enjoy sitting down and chatting with you, and I love your energy and the opportunity to sit down, and I love listening to the show and the other people that you have on, and just everyone can learn so much about our community by listening. So thank you.
Thank you. Cadillac Unscripted is sponsored by Independent Bank. Next week, same time, same station, more local chat here. Cadillac Unscripted on 107.9 CDY.